So my name is Godfrey and I am the Director of Safeguarding for the Stowe Valley Multi-Academy Trust. And that is a collection of 10 schools, both primary and secondary, all within the Warwickshire area. So in the Stowe Valley, we have been using the student voice for 5 years now, and it started with one of our secondary schools, built-in school in Rugby, which is where we first began it. And due to the success of the student voice platform, we've rolled it out into all of our secondaries, and we're just about to begin the process of rolling it now out into the primaries. Actually, the student voice is massively important. I actually see it for our multi-academy trust as a bit of a unique selling point in terms of our safeguarding culture, because it actually is a fundamental feature of how we allow our students to raise their concerns, and whether that can be taking it into the 21st century of allowing students to raise their concerns on an online platform, whether it's they're using the virtual maps that are created, which are incredible to allow us to see the contextual risks within our school, or within the area surrounding the school, so the local parks, for example. It really is, as I said, that unique selling point of culture, of safeguarding within our organisations, because we didn't have a platform like this before. We were using kind of students doing paper forms to raise a concern, which sometimes they didn't want to do. And actually it enables this platform of real ease for both the students to report concerns and for the teachers. And when students don't want to say who they are and what concern they're raising, it has the ability to be anonymous and for us to post it back onto our platform of you said and we did. And again, that is a really unique way in which we can address students' concerns for students that may not have come forward before. So it can be anonymous, or it can be absolutely we know exactly who the student is. What it enables me to do as a platform is actually when I'm doing my strategic line management meetings with each of my DSLs in my schools, so if I'm taking our secondaries that are all using it and have it embedded in my fortnightly line management meetings, I'm able to look at actually what concerns have we got coming into the student voice by our students. Are we seeing patterns and trends across year groups? If we are seeing patterns and trends, which of course we do, so if I take an example of one of our secondary schools, and I'm sure that other teachers can relate, it was around things like corridors, and actually concerns were the contextual risks around the corridors being really busy. It allows for those conversations around actually what are we going to do about that? And so that's my view, to look at that strategically with the DSL and say, how are we going to address that concern and that theme that we're seeing through our student voice platform, whether that be introducing a one-way system, for example, in the corridors. So actually allowing me to have that oversight with the DSLs of show me the student voice platform, show me the patterns, show me the trends, what is being reported, and what have you done about it? Okay, and what are we going to do together collectively to make it as safe as possible for our students in our school? That all of the safeguarding work that we do, as safeguarding leads and within organisations, is capture the voice of the child, and that is what Keeping Children Safe in Education states. And then actually looking at that contextual safeguarding. Well, the student voice as a platform encapsulates all of that. It is the student voice. It is where that they can raise their concerns, what is their lived experience, and looking at that full contextual risks around them, whether that's in the school, within the school settings, certain locations within the school, or in the wider community. So it does help us meet our requirements from keeping children safe in education and meeting contextual safeguarding concerns, which, prior to the student voice, we were doing, but probably in a more laborious and a more old-fashioned way. And actually this has modernised that and brought it into the 21st century for us. And so we have had examples from children and young people where actually on the school site, such as a particular area of the school site down by the PE changing rooms, where that seemed to be an area of concern for our children and young people. If we hadn't had the student voice live, with the map live, where students were indicating or raising that concern, actually that might not have been raised. So that enabled us to then look at actually, well, what is it about that location? Was it because it wasn't supervised at lunchtime? Was it because the doors are left unlocked down there, for example? That the platform enabled us to actually highlight that area of child-on-child abuse during unstructured time and address those concerns. So the platform has massively helped us to meet those requirements and meet those needs as stipulated in the statutory guidance. In the setup, for example, of the student voice, enables us to really reflect on, what is contextual safeguarding? When we're dealing with incidents with children, we look so much at actually supporting the student who has been harmed and the student who has caused the harm, and focusing on the children, that we often don't take that step back to think about actually where the harm occurred, the location, for example, in which it occurred, the environment in which it occurred. And sometimes those questions, are not always at the front of our mind in safeguarding, because we're dealing with the harm and the person causing the harm. But working with the student voice team and really thinking about the school environment, the reporting of the school environment, the safety in the local community, has enabled us to pinpoint our contextual safeguarding focus, just as we do about supporting the child who has been harmed and has completed the harm. It's also looking about that environment, the safety of everybody. The student voice has supported recent Ofsted inspections because we are able to really clearly demonstrate to the inspectors exactly how we're using this platform. So actually that it's not just a case of we do student voice once a term, for example. And of course, there is about collecting student voice at certain points, as we do with parent voice, but actually that we've got this platform running at all times that is regularly reminded to our students in assemblies, in tutor times, that we have QR codes that students can scan onto their phone, showing Ofsted that actually it's not a tick box exercise of we do it once per term, but that we're using this platform regularly, day in, day out, and our students can talk about it. And in our inspections, I think that came through loud and clear in that triangulation of what does the DSL say that we do, and when the inspectors are then going to speak to the students, and the students are taught, said, how do you report safeguarding concerns? If you had a concern, would you know how to report it? All of our students are able to talk about the student voice. We have a platform in which we can go to report concerns, as well as being able to talk to our DSL. So actually, in the inspections, it was around how it triangulated from what we said we did and what the students said that they could access. And as I said, it wasn't a case of doing that for the purpose of an inspection or for the purpose of some data collection. It's something that's embedded into the everyday culture of our students' lives. And that, I think, is the bit that the inspectors really valued, because it was consistent, good and excellent safeguarding practice. So for us, for the student voice, it continues across all of our secondary schools. So it is now embedded within our secondary schools. And when we have our DSL network events, it's something that our DSLs talk about. So our secondary DSLs will share examples of best practice of how they're tracking data, looking at themes and trends from the student voice. And I know that our DSLs have come up with some new ideas that they want to take back to the student voice team around actually how we can talk around mental health risks through the student voice. And again, the student voice team are fantastic about collaborating with us about new ideas about whether those things are possible.